I am absolutely delighted to have Matthew Steeples back on the channel. We've got this bizarre story about Keir Starmer that we're going to get Matthew's opinion on. So a huge thank you for coming on, my friend.
Well, thank you, and I hope you're all having a wonderful bank holiday in Great Britain. We don't have one here in France, where I am, but you know, it's a very strange story is the Keir Starmer story, I think. Keir Starmer, the farmer harmer, as I call him, and you know, I was on the farming protests last November. I would have been on the most recent if I had been in England. I just cannot leave France at the moment because I'm rather stuck with a situation. But Keir Starmer is a man who secured a huge majority. You know, he had all the prospects in the world of success, and he's just thrown it all down the gutter. Everybody I speak to from Britain, from some of my famous TV presenter friends to business people who I know, and I had a billionaire around a day who was a very, very interesting man, and he and I had a conversation about it. He said, don't go back to Britain. He said, Britain under Keir Starmer is just a mess. This man is weird. There is something very odd about him. You know, there was all the allegations about Savile. Now, that is a little bit of a fabrication because he was involved in prosecute the CPS, but I don't think he's to blame entirely for what happened with that. But this latest situation with these three men, very, very odd. The three men, the male aspiring models, they're always described as aspiring models. And this morning on Radio 4's Today program, which I religiously listen to Radio 4's Today program, even though Amal Rajan makes me want to throw something at the radio set, or my computer, in fact. He and Sarah Vine had a little bit of a talk about it. And of course, as soon as Sarah Vine started to say anything vaguely controversial about these three men, she was stopped. So the media have been told to be quiet about these three men. You know, they don't exactly look like your normal kind of arsonist. You know, the one on the right, particularly in the picture you're just showing, looks, you know, a little. Well, he doesn't exactly look like he's a fire starter, does he? So there we go. The one in the middle, perhaps, he looks like he could be a troublemaker. The one on the left looks like a silly little child. So why are these three men, little boys or whatever they are, doing what they did? And obviously, the first occurrence was on the 8th of May. The car sold by Keir Starmer to his neighbour. Why did he sell his car to his neighbour? That's very odd for a start. Caught fire. And then 3 days later, the firefighters were dealing with a small fire at the door of a house which Sir Keir had lived in the 1990s. So it wasn't even a place where he'd actually lived recently. He didn't own it. It was nothing to do with him. It's since been converted into flats. Then the 12th of May, there was a fire at his private home on the street where the car fire took place. So what is this all about? And, you know, and all of this going on about Russia, it's all very odd, I would say. Wouldn't you agree?
It's most bizarre, one of the most bizarre stories I've ever come across in my life, Matthew. So, for example, let's say these three gentlemen on the screen, in separate incidents, had attacked Donald Trump properties and set fire to a Trump vehicle. Wouldn't the world media be all over it, tracking down their parents, interviewing their school teachers, their siblings, trying to get to the bloody bottom of it?
Yes, it's a bit like that that Luigi, the you know, the sexy shooter, you know, who killed the pharmaceutical boss, who everybody's obsessed with because he looks the part. And, you know, these three, you know, they're all male models and wannabes. And, you know, you'd think that people would be going, oh, well, what's their background? And, you know, with the Luigi guy, it was all about who were the parents, who were the brothers, who were the sisters. What did he do when he was on doing his surfing trips and all the rest of it? It doesn't make sense, does it? And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but, you know, there is something to be said for Sir Keir Starmer's links with Lord Ali. You know, why did Sir Keir Starmer allow Lord Ali to buy him glasses and his wife underwear? And, you know, something is very amiss with this man. And I initially thought that Lady Starmer, and it's, you know, that's her name. She's not Victoria to me. She's Lady Starmer because that's her correct title. I hate it when people misabuse titles. You know, I thought she might be quite a pleasant lady because she was into horse racing, and I love horse racing, as everybody knows. And I thought, you know, the day after the election, she went off horse racing. I thought, well, this lady's perfectly pleasant. But since then, there's been all sorts of situations where she's kept away. So there is obviously a problem with their relationship. I think there is an issue, or she doesn't even, it's either that or she doesn't like being the Prime Minister's wife. And she doesn't like the profile. And there's obviously the issues with the children. So there is obviously a situation that has developed here, and it's not a good one. And with these three men, what is the link, the real link? You know, they're trying to blame the Russians. And the Russians, of course, have denied it. They've said it's groundless. There's no evidence. They deny it's ludicrous. Nothing could be linked. He described it, Starmer himself, as an attack on all of us, on democracy and the values we stand for. You know, he had support in Parliament from Kemi Badenoch. I call her Kemi Bad Enough. She's totally useless as well. She's as much use as a chocolate teapot. Absolutely useless woman. And, you know, the dreadful Farron, the Liberal Democrat, who is a complete waste of space. You know, he's my father's MP up there in Cumbria, and my father can't stand the man. He's totally rubbish. You know, he doesn't do anything to help hill farmers. And today, the Telegraph did a wonderful article supporting hill farmers. And, you know, Farron is a total waste of space. They're all completely useless. But these three men, look at them. You know, you've put up the picture and pictures of each of them. Do these people look like terrorists? They don't look naturally like, you know, you don't suspect someone. You wouldn't say immediately when you saw those pictures, if you didn't know what they were linked to now, you wouldn't say terrorist attack on a prime minister. There's something very sleazy about this. It's a bit David Profumo, you know, Christine Keeler and all of that. And something odd has gone on here. Why would these people know about these three young men? Because how would you find out about Keir Starmer's home in the 1990s if you were this age? You know, one of them is 34, one of them is 21, and one of them is 26. So why would they know about where Keir Starmer lived in 1990? It's a bit odd. There is something very odd because, you know, they weren't even around then. So this is a little bit of okay, people can use all sorts of things to research things. And how did they know about this car? A car that he'd sold to his neighbor. It's all very, very odd. That's all I shall say. I think it's very curious. Lady Starmer has got into trouble for accepting designer clothes, says Toffee Merseyside. Well, what about Angela Rayner? Raving Rayner. And she's angling to be leader because she's denied she wants to be leader. I call her Raving Rayner, you know, the Ibiza dancing queen. And then we've got Rachel Reeves, Queen of Thieves, the real nasty. She's like she's the evil witch of the whole thing, and she will be blamed for everything. She will never ever get high office because she will be the scapegoat. They'll throw her under the bus shortly. to save himself, Keir Starmer will get rid of her at some point. She has to go because she is the problem. Because what she's done to the pensioners, what she's done to the farmers, she's the farmer harmer, she's the pensioner freezer. She is a truly awful woman. So we've got a whole collection of these nasty people in this Labour Party. The Labour Party were meant to be the party that cared about people. They were meant to be the, lovely, party of the unions and all of that, and the working class. There is no working class. We're all middle class now anyway. Let's be honest. There's the middle class, and there's the underclass, and then there's the uber elite. That's about all we have in the world. Everybody else is middle class. So that's how I feel about the situation.
Right. Thank you. Let me interject momentarily.
Yes, please interject.
We've got 1,300 people watching live within 10 minutes. It's rising rapidly. It's a hot subject. And many people have been waiting for Matthew to come on to speak about it. Here's all of Matthew's links. He's got a YouTube channel, the Steeple Times. We've got his Twitter. All of those links are now in the description box and in the live chat. He's got his YouTube channel. You can subscribe over there. You can follow his important work. And you can sign up for the Steeple Times. And if you've got questions about the Keir Starmer and the alleged male model escorts, please put them in the chat. Please put them in the chat while we are live, folks. So one of the things that people are asking, Matthew, is whether you think Starmer's lady is a beard, a la...
I think there is an issue that, where did he live during the lockdown? Where did his children live during the lockdown? What is the relationship with Lord Ali? Why was Lord Ali giving so much money? There's so much to say here that's questionable. People dislike the Conservative Party because they said Tory sleaze. The Conservatives who took gifts from, X, Y, and Z, and they were all grifters and they were all grabbing anything they could get. And, it began with my friend David Henk, who I think you met with me. I'm not sure. Maybe you did or didn't. He won the Journalist of the Year award for exposing the expenses scandal, which began with the man called Derek Conway, who's the father of somebody who I knew from university, who was a Conservative MP who was basically taking anything he could get. And David then went to work at the Guardian as well and has done many wonderful exposés on lots of corruption in the world. And, this Labour Party, they wanted to be whiter than white and sleazier, sleazeless. But there's more sleaze with this lot than there is with the previous lot. So they've really messed up from day one. And, accepting all these Taylor Swift tickets, or these Swifties, and it did no good in America either. Kamala Harris, look at her and how it backfired on her. What a disgrace she is. And she handed a victory to Trump because, frankly, she was bloody useless. And that is what we've got in Britain right now. We have got a political class that is totally useless, and we've got no opposition of any use. This Kemi Badenoch, as I call her, she is totally rubbish. Nigel Farage is trying to win over his left-wing supporters because he wants the red wall vote by going on about how he'll get rid of the winter fuel allowance and all the rest, which is he's just saying anything he can because he just does. That's how Nigel Farage behaves. And it's Farage as in garage. It's not Farage. It's Farage. In Broadstairs, his father ran a garage, and he was known as Farage the Garage, and that was what he called himself. So the man is a complete fraud and a fake, completely manipulating the situation. And then we've got the Liberal Democrat. Well, he's as much use as, he goes and jumps off a water slide. He's a complete pillock, complete idiot. And then we've got the Greens, who we have a boy leader and a girl leader. Make up your mind. If you get into Downing Street, which one's going to be in power? So get on with it. you're a waste of time also. So there's no one for me to vote for. There's no one for anyone to vote for. We're all totally politically homeless at the moment. I would love to support the Conservative Party. I was very involved with Margaret, and Margaret was a wonderful leader. And I worked with Ken Clarke, and I was on his leadership campaign, and it was a shame he didn't become Prime Minister. Ken Clarke was a fabulous man, and I loved the Heseltine family, even though they caused trouble for Margaret, but I forgave them afterwards. I like the Heseltines. I think they're great people. Even Tony Blair, he was a leader. At least he had a vision. These people, this Keir Starmer, there's something weird about him. There's some weird secret here that we don't know about, and we're not being allowed to hear about it, but we're getting bits of it. Why are the people who burn his house and his cars, well, his house, somebody else's building that he used to live in, and a car that he used to own, why are they all aspiring male models? It's a little bit odd. And why was there the underwear bought for his wife? And why was the connection with Lord Ali, who is openly gay? Yes, and there's nothing wrong with being gay. I have many gay friends, and there's nothing wrong with being gay, and be whatever you want to be. As you all know, I don't like the woke, and I'm a big supporter of J.K. Rowling and all of the things that she comes out with, and others such as Sharon, the Olympics swimmer lady. I've forgotten her surname. I support all of their views, and I think we should have, a man is a man and a woman is a woman in my world. But you can be whatever you want to be, but just don't ram it down other people's throats. But these three, there's something very odd about them. And why? I think their Russian is trying to be a cover-up of what they really are.
Right, I will interject with a quick poll. We've got over 2,000 watching live presently. Yes. Matthew's absolutely on fire. Please subscribe to his links. And the poll, viewers, is put a 1 in the chat if you think these three gentlemen on the screen were hired by Putin to cause a very British scandal. Put a 2 on the chat if you think that's absolute nonsense and somebody is deflecting from the truth.
I think you need a number 3. Something else. I think you need a number 3 is for something else. Something else entirely.
3, something else entirely. And we haven't got a single one. That says it all right there, Matthew.
Yes. Well, there we go. There is something very, very strange about this story.
Matthew, a few people are asking, what's the story about Lord Ali and Starmer, and who is Lord Ali?
Well, Lord Ali was involved in TV production. He made a lot of money with big programs on, I think, Channel 4 and all sorts of other things. And he's a big Labour Party donor. He's very close to Lord Mandelson, who, of course, is an associate of a person I don't think I'm allowed to mention on your program. Lord Mandelson was obviously very linked with the island man. Is that the best way I can describe him?
Yeah, we can say Jeffrey. We can say J.E.
So Jeffrey was Jeffrey and Lord Mandelson were very, very close. Lord Mandelson is now His Majesty's ambassador to America. So he has access to the White House yet again. And of course, the man in the White House also was.
So that's Lord Ali, I believe, that I put on the screen. And Matthew's frozen, but I'm sure he will be back momentarily. Let's see. And
Lord Ali has long been a funder of the Labour Party, and he's long been linked because Peter Mandelson, of course, was involved in television himself before politics. So that's how they obviously connect. And he has become very, very involved with Keir Starmer during the lockdowns. So the first lockdown, Keir Starmer's child was allegedly living in the £18 million penthouse in Covent Garden that belongs to Lord Ali. So Yeah, there's been all sorts of things going on, and Lord Ali bought glasses and suits and things for Keir Starmer, and bought underwear for his wife. So it's Keir Starmer has a very substantial salary. Why can't he pay for these things himself?
In August 2024, the Times reported that Ali had been given unrestricted access to 10 Downing Street, uncommon for anyone not formally employed in the Prime Minister's office. Wow.
Yes. Well, yeah, but that's because he paid his way in. He gives very big donations, so this is what he's very good at doing. But this is what, in Boris Johnson's government, Lord Bamford, who hasn't paid any of his taxes, he paid his way in, and he gave Boris Johnson a house to live in when he ceased to be Prime Minister. People like this, if you want something, you buy your way in. And then Lord Bamford has now quit the House of Lords because he doesn't want to be taxable in Britain, so he's quit. I was with a billionaire the other day who has quit Britain, and he's a very interesting man, and he just said, I just don't want to be in this country anymore, and I'm not giving any more to any political parties, and he lives in a different place now. So it's with these rich people, and I meet a lot of very rich people. Yesterday, I met a very serious American billionairess. She helped me with the lady who's here, and I'm not going to say who she is because I don't want to do it, because the Daily Mail wanted to do the story, and I don't want to do the story. So, and she quit America because Trump had arrived. Rich people, they tend to do what they want, and they can buy their way. If you're a billionaire, you, like Elon Musk, you give your support to Donald Trump, or if you're the George Clooney and the other way inclined, you give it to Biden or whatever. And Lord Bamford chose Boris Johnson, and Lord Ali is not a billionaire. He's a very rich man, but he's not in the league of those people. But he chose Keir Starmer, and Keir Starmer is somehow obligated to him. And there's something very weird about their relationship. A bit like, the donkey field he also owned. Did you know about the donkey field?
I don't know anything about him.
Okay, so Keir Starmer bought a field for his parents in Surrey, because they wanted to, in their retirement, they wanted some donkeys, and he paid, I don't know, small amounts of money for a field. Well, it would be not insignificant given it's Surrey, but he managed to sell the field for a huge amount of money, and the donkeys were moved on. But he is a profiteer, and he's just as greedy as the rest of them out there. So don't think Keir Starmer is anything other than a profiteer. And like all the rest of them, he will make his money and he'll move along. He's a clever man, obviously. He's a lawyer. He was successful as a barrister. He was involved in the McDonald's case. He represented the victims of the McDonald's case, and he did a brilliant job for them. So there are qualities to Keir Starmer. I've never met. I didn't mean to say queer. That's a bit unfortunate. But there we go. There is something queer about his personality, but I'm not saying that's in a sexual sense. I'm just saying queer as in odd. Okay? It's like the word gay can mean happy. Yeah, gay and happy. Yeah, there are meanings to words, and words change. And my brilliant friend, Giles Brandreth, and I've got his book right here, Have You Eaten Grandma? So, yeah. It's called Have You Eaten Grandma, but there's no apostrophe. If there were an apostrophe, it would mean a totally different thing. Have you eaten grandma is have you eaten your grandma? But if you have you eaten comma grandma, it means has grandma eaten? So there we go. Words can evolve. So I'm very sorry if I misused a word, but it was kind of intentional, but I chose to that.
Freud would have a field day with it, Matthew. We've got almost 3,000 watching live. Here's Matthew's links are in the live chat. Please subscribe to his work.
Yes, I will be on my program tonight at 7 o'clock, hopefully, if we don't have problems with the person concerned. But she's sitting in the garden right now, and she's got 2 glasses of wine, so hopefully she'll keep quiet for a little while. But once she starts shouting, I'll have to end this matter, because that's how it works.
You've got a question on the screen, Matthew, and it's why does Lord Ali want unlimited access to Downing Street?
Because if you're a person of power and influence, and you want the politicians to do what you want, so you want to be able to change the rules and make the rules for you. So that's why you pay for what you do, and you give money. And you know, in the past, I know lots of people who've given lots of money to the Conservative Party or the Labour Party or the Liberal. I have a friend who gives a lot of money to the Liberal Democrats, and literally, he does it because he thinks that he can influence their policy, and he changes their policy because he's an influential economist, and he's a successful businessman, and he pays for what he gets. So he thinks the Liberal Democrats are the ones for him, but he's never going to get anywhere with it because, frankly, they're not going to get power. But, you know, they did get a coalition once. So as for Lady Starmer herself, she's a remarkably quiet lady. She's not very visual, is she?
Let's read you this comment. I'll read you this comment from Sihan. Yes. Lady Starmer was, according to some analysts, ordered by the Prime Minister to appear at public events recently to show support after a long absence. She looked haggard, unwell, and very uncomfortable.
Well, I would say that she appeared at the VE Day celebrations, and they were kissing and making, they were very happy. It looked very forced to me. I didn't think it was a very happy place for either of them. Now, I don't know any more than anyone else, but I speak with my journalistic colleagues and friends, and they all say there is a problem. There's a definite problem. So, and the way it was presented on Radio 4 this morning with Sarah Vine, I thought was very, very interesting, because the minute she dared come close to saying what we've just said, Amal Rajan immediately moved the issue on and just cut her off, because they've been told to be quiet. The BBC have been told to be quiet about this. There is no discussion of this.
Is that a D notice then? Because it's terrorist cops that have apprehended these 3 boys.
Well, it is they use the situation of an ongoing legal case. So don't talk about it, because that is a way you can stop a conversation, because obviously you don't want to prejudice an ongoing legal matter. Whether I'm prejudicing an ongoing legal matter by talking to you about it, I've no idea, but I could be. It's quite possible we could be prejudicing an ongoing legal case, but I haven't said anything. I don't know anything specific about these people, nor do you. So all I know is what I've been told and what I've discussed with other people in the press. And there is something more curious about this than, those 3 men are not. They're not your average looking. They don't look like Al Qaeda, do they? They're not exactly who you'd think would come around bombing your house and blowing up things and setting fire to and they're all aspiring male models. Their only connecting factor is that they all aspire to be a male model.
They look like they belong in the Village People, Matthew.
Yeah, they could be a little boy band, couldn't they? They could be the next Take That. I don't think the one on the right is quite Robbie Williams, but Nor is the one on the left. The one on the left looks a bit like Ant or Deck. I never know which one's Ant or Deck.